Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Martinez with IgniteUps.ai with my co-host,
Zach Fritz with Evo One Industries.
and together we're automotive informants. My background is primarily running stores, multiple rooftops. Zach brings a different perspective on the technician side. He's been in the technical side for the majority of his career, and now he's kind of moved over into the vendor space. But he's got some cool products. But either way, we're going to be bringing you headlines on how you can apply it today in today's automotive industry, coming from operators and people that have worked inside the stores, how you can apply it, what's the news really mean, and is it just headlines, or is it real ways to make money, or real ways to kind of avoid not falling into some pitfalls. So uh, I know this morning or yesterday, I was actually reading some headlines, Zach, and it was Mercedes-Benz cutting their profit in half. What do you
Yeah,
think about that one? I don't know if you had a chance to read it.
it lines up. I mean, I think Mercedes is kind of just following the trend of all automakers today. We're seeing cars that, I mean, first off, nobody's really buying a car right now because it's not the best time.
Well, that's another
But
headline. We can talk about that one here in a minute. So, yeah.
absolutely. But Mercedes in general, Mercedes has always been categorized as a luxury want style item versus a Toyota Camry. That's more of a need, it's more common. But I think it shows a deeper trend across the industry where brand name, brand loyalty, or even striving for a brand like a Mercedes Benz, which is some people's dream car, it's kind of falling by the wayside.
Well, I'll tell you, Mercedes is kind of going into that higher echelon of a vehicle, right? They're actually they just came out saying that they're gonna kind of move that direction. And actually, this recent article basically said that as China has, their volume in China dropped 20%. Tariffs did cause some of that negative fallout on their profit. But when you think about it, it was only 20% in deliveries that fell, yet half of their profitability was cut. So it's not really so much volume, but when you think about even in a dealership world today, it's you got to be careful on some of those big units, right? And really, what I've seen from China's perspective, they've come into the marketplace with bigger technology, bigger. If you just look at some of the technology that they've done, that's competing with Tesla, and actually doing a better job in some cases. What I've seen. I don't know if you've seen some of the videos where like they wave their hand and the car comes out and
Yeah.
has a summons technology where it'll come and pick you up. Then you swipe your hand and it closes the door. And when you look at that technology and you look at what Mercedes has done, they do have some technology came out in their electric vehicles, but until they move it over into their, AMG lines and all those other high end, super high end vehicles, they've got some work to do for sure.
It's interesting because it almost kind of portrays itself as a margin issue on the vehicles, right? But I do think we're starting to see more of a divide between, like you said, this AMG line, which we think more enthusiast vehicles, in which an enthusiast case, I don't want that technology on a car. I don't. I don't want a car that, hey, I'm driving it hard, I'm sending it into a corner, and I'm going to do fun things. I don't want the car to brake for me or detect something because maybe it's an intention to get kind of close or scare the car. And then you see drivers who are wanting that technology at the best price possible, and Mercedes doesn't really fit that bill. Now, they tried this a few years back with, what was it, the GLC series and a few of those lower end cars. But from a mechanic standpoint, those were always the cars we worked on because you're seeing underpowered four cylinders, you're seeing small displacement motors, CVT transmissions and front wheel drive drivetrains that don't last and don't hold up, yet these buyers expect Toyota level reliability because it's marked down to a higher level Toyota price point, and it doesn't compute.
Well, I'll tell you, running a Mercedes store personally, when I looked at the buyers that bought the AMGs, they didn't look like the enthusiasts that, want to put it on a track and see how it handles. It's people that just use it for their everyday drive. They like it because it looks cool. And so when I look at the technology, I drive a Cybertruck, and that FSD is real. Like, you truly feel like you're driving in the future, or you're not driving and someone's driving for you. Like, just imagine having an automatic chauffeur. And I think that type of technology would lend well to Mercedes Benz. And it's proven now when you look at, dropping 20% year over year in volume in China that has all that technology. And that's, they're going to have to do some stuff. And I know they're already bringing it out. I think I read an article recently where Mercedes is going to put some of that self-driving tech. They're putting it in Dubai, I think. That's the first place that I think they're going to be putting that self-driving technology.
Kind of like Waymo, right?
Yes. So it's going to be interesting, and I think you'll find most companies are going to move that direction. Rivian just came out saying that they're going to be doing full self-driving, um,
Mm-hmm.
some lidars in their technology, um, and there's several others. Hyundai has come out saying that they're doing it. They're all in on that technology, and it's not until you actually drive it or have it drive you that you don't truly understand. Like, I heard about full self-driving for years, but it wasn't until 6 months ago when I bought my Cybertruck, or 7 months ago, that I started using it every day. And I use it probably 99% of the time now. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to really drive normal. Anytime I park, I just, have it park for me. Like, it's it's scary good. Like, you can fall asleep in your car. It's not approved for that yet, but it will. And when it does, I'll be signed up for it for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of where I think we have a different opinion when it comes to cars. I mean, for example, I have two vehicles right now that are probably a good example of this. So I've got a GMC Sierra that just barely has blind spot and pre-collision, and 99% of the time I leave it disabled because I don't like it for the kind of driving I do. And it's really inconvenient when you're, driving past, out on trails, for
Yeah.
example, trees, rocks. It goes off all the time. It's a total pain. And then I've also got a newer Volkswagen SUV that's got everything, including the auto park features. And I, worst part is living up in the snow. That stuff goes off all the time because there's salt covering up all the sensors and cameras. So I think it almost brings me to a point where talking about Mercedes, maybe we're starting to see some of the brand identity change
Yes.
towards this technology where, you know, maybe we're seeing people who have never thought about a Mercedes. Maybe they're coming from Hyundai or Kia or some of these other cars who have raised their price point significantly with the addition of this technology versus Mercedes kind of lowered theirs. And maybe we're just seeing that crossover and maybe that sales or that loyalty. I mean, look at BMW, for example. Over the past few years, BMW has just been advertising like crazy. I mean, I've never seen such a strong push for BMW in my life, especially whenever all the mechanics know BMW is not the car that they really make it out to be for the most part. So I just think it's interesting. Maybe it's a market share thing. Maybe it's a brand identity crisis. It's hard to pinpoint, but I think China's a really big indicator because from what I remember, China was one of Mercedes' largest markets, was it
It was.
not?
Yeah, and to be down 20% year over year, that's where I felt like when I read that headline, I was pretty shocked. But they
Yeah.
didn't. I was shocked, but it didn't surprise me because of all the tech that I'm seeing. Um,
Hmm.
and when I look at BYD, and that's kind of like a good segue into that conversation. So BYD has been taking, I mean, it completely dominated and took over Tesla, right? Like they're now the
Yeah.
number one company that's selling electric vehicles. And when you look at their technology and their price points, it's kind of surreal. And right now the government's basically putting all kinds of different roadblocks to stop that manufacturer from coming into the states. And look at what they did to BYD in the UK or in Europe, right? uh,
Hmm.
the article that I read said that they are making BYD raise their prices so that they don't drop the market in Europe. So that to
Yeah.
me is just wild, right? Like say, hey, look, you guys are too cheap, can't come into the market unless you raise your prices. And they
Right.
didn't say it specifically like that, obviously, but in
It's
that's
the
exactly
gist.
how it's framed. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know how it's interesting how they framed it or worded it. And then when you read through it, they're basically just saying, hey, your prices are too low, bring them up. Um, and that's just kind of crazy, you know?
I mean, from a consumer perspective, it then kind of shows you, okay, well, maybe I am really being ripped off, right? Like we know that there's a lot of margin in cars. That's not a secret. However, I guess I look at it too from the perspective of we've seen. I'm in Colorado, so we have the legalization of those key trucks or K trucks, the little tiny vans
Yeah.
trucks, coming from Asian countries, and they're pretty rad. They're very very useful. It's what the Ford Maverick should have been. And we see those start to become legalized across the United States. Now we see this advent of better electric drive systems, better ADAS or advanced driver assist systems. I think that there's definitely a mashup there.
Yeah.
And also seeing the slate truck come out, where maybe BYD finds its footing here with the introduction and the legalization of all that. I think it would dominate, especially if they could find some way to come in around maybe $15,000, $20,000.
Yeah. BYD for sure can do
It would
that.
crush.
Yeah. And that's why they're trying to hold the brakes on them. Like that would
Yeah,
really disrupt every OEM if you got a brand new car that you can buy for 15, 20 grand, or if not cheaper. Um,
yeah,
and then you got, and right now they're trying to circumvent that, right? They're trying to go through Mexico. And I've even seen some here in San Antonio, BYD trucks that I'd never
hmm,
seen. And all of a sudden you randomly see one and you're like, oh, wow, that's actually kind of cool.
yeah.
And then you see what they're doing, that deal they just made with China, with the Canada, I mean. And so now they're going to be putting some BYD vehicles out there. But the big news, the big headline was BYD just sued the United States along with 1,000 other companies. And when you look at the list here, you got Costco, Goodyear, Kawasaki, Revlon, Siller, Luxottica, Yokohama, Alcoa, Bumblebee Foods, Dole Fresh Food. So all of these companies, these are the top 10 major ones. BYD is one of them, obviously. But when you look at all of these companies now just suing the US over these tariffs, but what they're saying, BYD, like they've raised the tariff so high for them that it doesn't make it um, a market to come into now, right? So that's what they're suing on. And when you read it more, it's just saying that if courts determine it doesn't authorize tariffs, like if they somehow win this, billions in duties could be refunded. And that would definitely be a different thing for automotive, right? So then that would open the door for General Motors and Ford and all these other companies to come in and sue the government too, which would be kind of crazy. But it,
It'd be interesting to see government motors. I mean, General Motors to sue the government. That would be interesting. But
yeah.
I
Don't we still own a piece of the General Motors through the government or something? I
I
know
don't know. I was
Tesla
waiting
paid.
to
I
get
know
my rebate
Tesla
back
paid
on my
back.
truck. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because I think it underscores a bigger problem where I understand it from the perspective of myself having a USA made product and trying to do everything here stateside so I avoid tariffs and also American jobs and I can put the flag on my packaging because that's important to me. It's extremely expensive to do that. And sure, we've raised tariffs, but at the same time, it's still really hard to borrow money in the US. The economy is kind of not great. And so, from that perspective, I mean, we haven't supported enough infrastructure to allow US manufacturing to then catch up to that level, but instead we're going to just slap the hand of it.
Yep.
You know, maybe a better opportunity is for BYD to figure out an American manufacturing play or an American licensing play, have the government then support that under all their green initiatives that they want to push. Great, this is a good way to spend that money.
Well, well, and I think if anything, I think you'll probably see that where they try to bring a plant here and
Yeah.
are creating more jobs. But I think China just there's another article I read where they had just come out saying that they made the first dark factory where it's completely run by robots. So and so the minute you see one do that, every other OEM is going to be on the bandwagon and say, "What? I can build these robots and have it do it from start to finish." So that's going
I
to be
mean, yeah, it's we talked about that as technicians all the time. What happens whenever robots take our jobs? I'd
yeah,
love to see a robot, throw a wrench across the shop or rotate and change tires, but then it evolved into okay, well, we went from a manual tire machine to where you just press the buttons and it
yeah,
does it all on its own. And I'm sure it's evolved since the 5, 6 years ago whenever I left. So at what point does it end?
yeah. No, I think you're right, and that kind of when you think about what the prices of the new cars have been have like as a result they're what 50,000 $52,000 is like the average vehicle new car price now. So you can't say that tariffs didn't have a little bit to do with that, right?
Well, they did. Even American vehicles that people think are made in the United States, no, they're not. And all the parts come from overseas or other countries, Mexico, Canada.
And right
There,
now, all
there's
the OEMs have absorbed those costs, but now
yeah,
the incentives aren't as strong as they might have been. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So that's just kind of what ends up happening, right? And then look at what happened in January. Um, I think last year the SAR was at like 15.3 or 15.6. I forget exactly the number. It was pretty low. Um, and right now for January, it's pacing 14.9. So if that proves out to be, less than last year, new cars, not only the prices have gone up, but now you're not selling as many, even when we have more people in the US driving more than ever, right?
You would think it would go, yeah.
You would think, but now people are
Demand.
keeping, but now people are keeping those vehicles longer, partly because, 2022, there was a lot of people that were paying over sticker and they ended up
Mm-hmm,
having a lot of negative equity. So 22,
mm-hmm.
23, and so we're in that cycle right now. So, used car inventory is going to be even more scarce in my opinion.
Oh yeah, it frightens me because some of my most popular YouTube videos have been talking about CarMax, right? And I got a comment the other day about, oh, how do you, swap cars every couple of years, but not like you must have a ton of negative equity. No, I either pay the car off or I, put enough down, I offset, right? I've
Yeah.
never rolled an equity on or negative equity on a vehicle. But then I've got friends who I have one really, really good friend who probably going to be upset for sharing this, but made a dumb decision. Has a Jeep Gladiator, ended up trading from a Ram that I know he overpaid for, rolled about 9 grand of negative onto that Jeep, and somehow financed at 72 months and is sitting around like, what, $900 a month?
You hear those a lot. I mean, I just recently heard a 96-month loan, and or this one girl on social media how she just financed a Hyundai at 36% interest, and I'm just like, yikes! You're paying
It's
$600 a
scary.
month on a 10-year-old car, and you're like, that's scary.
Well, right. Like my buddy, his Jeep, he had it appraised, and I think they wanted to give him 13 for it, and he owes 32.
That's not good. Yeah, that's a
At your
real that's a real that's a real thing. Like, and you know, when you think about what that new car payment is, like it's $1,000 now. I mean, that's those $5,000 cars that people used to try to buy back in the day. Like they're still trying to buy those cars, but they've got like maybe 300,000 miles or something. Like that's just it's crazy.
it's scary because the rate at which vehicles depreciate these days versus the payoff terms that people have, it rarely correlates. And then I think that gets driven up by this hype that we see on social media of, you know, everybody needs a Lambo, or like it's that vibe, right? Where
Yeah.
you see somebody with a Tesla, and then you say, "Well, I need a Tesla," but you're really in like Toyota Corolla or Kia Soul financial territory, and then you think, "I'm going to save so much money," but then that depreciation, when the battery starts to age, or you see that 50% loss, it never equates out correctly, and then they say, "Well, now I need something new," so they're forced into a decision to buy another car that's going to do the exact same thing, and it's almost becoming like student loans where people just carry around this burden of debt all the time that I've kind of changed my positioning over the past probably 12 months seeing cars where the cars I have right now I'm probably going to keep for the next few years until something changes because it makes no sense to buy something new.
So we talked about Mercedes, we talked about BYD, we talked about the SAR coming down in price of the vehicles. What do you think? Like, how do you tie that all in together to try to say, how can we help the stores today navigate this kind of noise? Is it just noise, or is there opportunity where they can now, operate at a different level and sell more, make more, service more? What do you think?
I think it's twofold. There's a lot of noise, and unfortunately, that noise is not just isolated to our industry. It's all across social media. Everybody sees it, and people are hesitant. It's the same thing with the housing market right now. Is nobody is sure of a decision.
Yeah.
However, I think if you can reassure somebody to make a decision that is truly good for them, which some car dealers don't do, but the good ones are consistent with, then I think you'll succeed. And you're able
Okay.
to break through all of the noise and all the drama if you can truly do the right thing for the right reasons. And
I'm with
customers will
you.
see.
I'm with you on that. I'll tell you from my perspective, I think that you definitely need to make sure that you're stocking the right inventory, making sure that if with sit with your new car managers, treat it like used cars, how you would source used cars, and make sure that you've got your volume vehicles, and make sure that you're not, sitting on too much of that heavy stuff, because that those things are the ones that generally have the biggest drops. And then two, if people are keeping their vehicles longer, make sure that you've got your service department set up. Like if you've got capacity, or if you don't have capacity, then you may need to
Mhm.
look at investing on expanding your tech base. I see a lot of dealers every time that I'll talk to them and they say I can't handle any more service business, and then I look at their tech bay and they've got 8 bays, and you're like, well, I mean, you could add like 10 more if you just kind of extended this out a little bit more, and then you wouldn't be sending any of these people home or to other competitors. So I think if where we're at is going to be a space we're going to be at for the next several years, then kind of look in that direction. And then in addition to that, focus on used cars. Used cars, you're going to have to focus on, servicing them and trying to get those customers in, so that you can have vehicles and inventory to sell. Because if Mercedes is saying they're going to drop their inventory, then you're going to need to, keep selling cars somewhere, right? So if the
Yeah.
availability is going to get a little bit more scarcer as a result of what's been happening, and they're going to focus more on margin, then you're going to have to focus more on margin and stop those leaks. Like, make sure that you know how to have your used car inventory acquiring strategy, service, making sure you've got that strategy down, and then new cars, making sure you've got good new car team to understand how to source and get those vehicles as well. So,
And stop selling everybody on a Ram TRX, an M4 Comp Sports Special Edition, or AMG GTs. Not everybody needs those cars. Sell cars that make sense for the average person and
yeah.
is going to get them through, get them from point A to B, be reliable, and is a car that, if you do it the right way, is a car you can work on and service, and your technicians aren't going to rip their hair out and quit over.
Yeah. Hey, but the GTs are cool, sir.
They are really
I got to
that's
tell you, those things are cool. People buy those because they look cool. So
I'm not going to lie to you. I constantly keep tabs on the market of those, and they have dropped in value significantly. Once they get to around 45, 48, I may pick one up, or an RS5. So,
there you go. Hey, well, this was fun, Zach. I
yeah,
can't wait to do it again next week. Um,
likewise.
but this is for a first go. I think this was good. So this was
I do too.
automotive informants, right? So I like
It
it.
was. If you've
Good
got
stuff.
any comments down below on topics you want us to cover, please drop them below in the comments section.
All right, perfect. Until next week, Zach. We'll see you guys. Thank you.
Here, Chris.